it's me, Caitlin, and I'm so excited to share with you about our second month serving abroad, which was in Albania. Our time began with a week-and-a-half training and debrief at a hotel called Vlore, located in Durres, and the hotel was just 5 minutes from the beach. The restaurant owners near there were so kind to us that we kept coming back to the same places over and over again, particularly to a place called Vlore. There was one night where we were seated outside eating, and a man came up to us trying to sell us some bananas. Our server saw that we were uncomfortable, and so he came over, bought the bananas, and then left with them. And then later he came back with a dessert that they had made of the bananas for us, and they would not let us pay for it. And so that was really kind. Another place we enjoyed going was Albert's coffee shop. He became very fond of us, and so he offered to cook a meal for us. Giving him a day in advance, he bought a bunch of meat and he cooked a lamb for 6 hours and just prepared this huge feast for us with lots of meat, lots of sides. It was incredible. At the end of debrief, my team packed up their bags and we walked 30 minutes to a bus station and got on a small van that took us to Berat and then to Vlore. The van driver took us straight to our Airbnb. Even though there were other people on the van, he didn't just drop us off at the bus stop, he took us there, which was so kind. And that night, our Airbnb host, who I'll call Lenny for privacy, offered to take us on a tour of the city so that we could learn about and appreciate Albania's history. He also took us to a space overlooking the city, which was really stunning, and to an outdoor coffee shop, and then later to a place of Vlore called Old Town, which is the older part of the city that is still really well preserved. When he asked us why we were visiting, we responded that we'd come to serve the people of Vlore and wanted to help with any need that they may be facing. Lenny was really shocked that we wanted to work the whole time for no money, and so he suggested that we help with the olive harvest in the village that his parents grew up in, a village called Karbunar, who would be starting their olive harvest soon. So we took a day trip there to scout things out and see if we should move there. On the way, the road wound through mountains with breathtaking olive fields that were growing up the side of the mountains and at the bottom of the mountains. The road was really bumpy and we'd all burst into laughter when we would catch some air and then be thrown back to our seat by gravity. Once we entered the village, we were immediately invited to come to a woman's house who had 3 children to have Turkish coffee and a little cookie. She expressed how that was the first time that she had ever had Americans come to her house and that she was really honored to host us and get to know us better. After that, Lenny opened the gate and door to his parents' old home, and once we got inside, we looked around and it had been abandoned for about 10 years, and so we got to work cleaning. Slowly the town entered through the gate to see what all the ruckus was about, because who was cleaning this house that had been abandoned for 10 years? And why were they American? As they would come to see what was going on, I would come out, introduce myself, speak a little bit of Albanian, because I was responsible for our team's safety, so I tried to meet as many people as possible, and they were just so friendly and just happy to meet us. As we worked, 2 siblings from the neighboring house named Layla and Clyde brought food to us. They saw that we were working really hard, and so they just sat the food down and asked how they could help. So we handed them a mop and a broom and they jumped right in. But we didn't want to be rude and let their food grow cold that they brought. So after a little bit, we took a break, we brought the food up onto the roof of the house, and we got to eat it together. I really enjoyed getting to know them better and just hearing what their day-to-day life in the village was like. In the end, we decided to move to the village for a couple of days, and it was quite the adventure getting there. So, this is how it happened. The day that we were going to be traveling to this village, we packed our day packs, we got groceries, got probably like 4 water tanks, and we had asked our Airbnb host the day before, like, where's the van at that goes to Carbonar? What time does it leave? And he said, it's a red van, it's on a certain street, he gave us the street name, and it leaves at 11 a.m. So, we have all our things packed, we have our groceries in bags, we're carrying the water tanks, and we go to this location, and the van is not there. And it's starting to get close to 11 o'clock, so we start to panic a little bit. We decide to go down a different street where we had seen some vans. None of the vans was the red one. And we then decide to just ask, like, where are these vans going? And one of the drivers said that he would take us to Carbonar, even though he was headed to Tirana. And we were aware that there were 2 places called Carbonar. There was a city on the way to Tirana, the capital, and then there was another village called Carbonar, which was east, not north. So we show him on the map. We're like, are you sure that you can take us to this place? And he's like, yes, I'll drop you off 10 minutes from there, and then you can walk. So we're looking at each other, and we're like, okay, I guess we'll give it a shot. So we get in there, and me and Renee, our treasurer, is watching our GPS to see if he's going the right direction. And about 15 minutes in, we realize he's taking us north. We're not going east at all. And so I called our Airbnb host, Lenny, and was like, hey, can you talk to the driver? We need this van to stop, and we need to go back to Vlore. And so I was able to hand the phone to the driver, they talk, he pulls over on the side of the highway, gets our stuff out, and then tells us we have 2 minutes to get to the other side of the road, which there's this cement wall between the 2 highways that we're supposed to get over and cross with busy traffic and get to this like gas station that's like 10-minute walk away in 2 minutes. And we have all of our stuff. So what happens is Renee tries to get our money back first, and the man is trying to give her half of what she had paid. And she was like, no, you took us in the wrong direction, and I demand all my money back. And so he hesitated, and she was like, give me my money back. And so he gave it to her, and then they leave, just leaving us stranded on this highway. We're just like panicking because we have 2 minutes to get to this other van because it's going back to Vlore, and if we miss it, we're just gonna be stranded. And at that time, at that point in my mind, I was like, we might be tenting tonight in a different city. But didn't come to that. There was this overpass that was going to cross over both of the highways and would go over to the gas station. And so one of my teammates named Caitlin, she starts climbing it, and like there's no sidewalk. It's just a dirt mound going up to this overpass. And so we just follow her, and she's like all of a sudden already up on top of the hill, and she's helping like grab groceries and water tanks and reaching out her hand to help us up. And yeah, we're like crawling on our hands and knees up this dirt mound as quickly as we can. And I realize as like I'm like crawling up and I look back, I'm like, if I were to slip and to like slide back and then fall off, I would fall off into the highway and die. Like, oh my gosh. And also the entire time I was trying not to laugh because it was just so ridiculous that I found it hilarious. Although I knew it was a serious matter, like I need to get my team to safety, I need to make sure we get back to town, but also I was trying really hard not to laugh at how ridiculous this whole situation was and how ridiculous we looked. Like as we were crawling up the dirt mound, cars were honking at us as they went by, like, what are those Americans doing? Then, that's not even the whole story. Thankfully, the van leaves the gas station and is crossing that road that we've just climbed up to on the overpass, and it stops, and he looks at us and he's like, and he points to the road that would have led like up the overpass, and like he's just like, why didn't you take that? And we were all like, because we had 2 minutes, we didn't have time to walk around the gate and like over there. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. Then, so van takes us back to Vlore, and once we get there, we decide, okay, we're gonna take taxis instead. Taxis are more expensive, but I was like, I'm willing to donate some personal money to get us there because all of our stuff is packed, like we're going to Carbonara today. I call our Airbnb host Lenny, and I ask him to talk to the taxi driver about taking us there and how much it would cost. As the taxi driver is on the phone with Lenny, Renee sees the red van for Carbonara just pass by behind the taxi, and she's like, guys, that's the red van. And so I saw it and I dropped what I had and I was like, guys, I'm gonna go stop the van. And so I chase it and with the intention of stopping it, and thankfully it got kind of caught up in like a little bit of a traffic jam. And so I'm like waving at the driver, like pushing that yay, pushing that yay. And I'm like stop, like please get out of your car, pull over. And so thankfully he does. And I realized then though that the taxi driver still had my phone, so I wasn't able to translate with him. And so when he first got out, I was just like, Persentetier, don't get back in your van, please. Like, just give me a second, but I can't let you get back in your car. Thankfully, Caitlin runs to me, gives me her phone. I'm able to translate with him. He's like, yeah, there's space, I'll take your team on the van. And so we get on the van and we get to Carbonara. So once we got to the village, we moved into Lenny's parents' abandoned house.
Eat it all. I know.
And after that, then we started walking around the village to just meet people. There was like a coffee shop and a small market like combined together as a building. And the owner there, he greeted us, Persentetier, Sieni, Mir. We talked about our names, like Si Chuhash, Unyam, Cat, because I go by Cat because there's so many Caitlins on my team. There's 3. He then brings out a table for us outdoors, and then brings out a tablecloth and a bottle of Fanta and some glass cups. And so he, served us and sat with us. We tried to talk a little bit, but he only knew Albanian and we only know English. And so we just, enjoyed his company. At the end, we wanted to pay him, but he would not let us pay for it. And so, that was just really, really kind and such a sweet welcome to their village. After that, we continued to walk around and say hello to people. And we came upon another small market, but it had fresh produce there instead. The other one was kind of more of a convenience store where you can get lots of miscellaneous things and sign up for the cow slaughter list. When we got to this other market, we say Persentetier to the man, and then he gets a bag and he starts putting fruits and vegetables in it. And he just keeps putting fruits and vegetables in it, and we're like, what is he doing? And then he just hands it to us, and we're like, how much? And he's like, no, like, you take. And we were just like, at that point, I was in tears. I mean, I could not believe that they were being so generous to us. Like, we came there to bless them, to encourage them, and like they just took it upon themselves to make sure that we felt really welcome, that they knew how like happy they were to have us visit, and they took it upon themselves to make sure that we were taken care of and comfortable there. So it just melts my heart, because like it's so incredible to know that there's still people like that and places like that that exist in the world. We stayed there a couple of days, meeting people and spending time with them. And before we left, we wrote notes to them in Albanian. We asked the Lord to give us words of encouragement that would be unique and relevant for each of them. A couple days later, Lenny got permission from several of the parents to bring 8 children from the village to Vlore for a fun day. So the day that we got to do that, we took the children out to eat, and we took them to a toy store and bought them the gift of their choice. And yeah, that's how we got to spend time and get to know them that day. Lenny recommended to us that we buy them a gift, because many of them did not have any toys, and if they did, they only had very few. So that was, so that was a special experience, but also kind of sad as well, because we brought each child into this toy store one by one to pick out something, and when each child went in, they just like stared at us like, I can get any toy, and then they didn't know which one to choose, and so they were just looking at us like, you know, they like couldn't believe that we were going to do that for them. And then when they had all of those options before them, they were overwhelmed, and they wanted us to help them pick out something. So yeah, it was like bittersweet to experience that, but at the same time, I'm glad that we got to gift them with something that they can keep and like remember that day by. There was a specific boy there that stood out to me. When we were sitting at the restaurant, he was misbehaving really terribly. He was hitting the other children pretty hard, eating their food and trying to run away from us, and just not like listening to Lenny at all. And so Lenny at one point pointed him out to us and said, that kid, like, he doesn't listen to anyone, he gets beaten at home, and he's just uncontrollable. He was just saying that this kid had no future, basically. And I was observing this child, for privacy's sake, we can call him Ron. But with my experience in teaching, I really think that Ron just had undiagnosed ADHD. And so later on that day, when we took them to a coffee shop after the restaurant so that we could take them one by one to this toy store across the street, Ron was misbehaving, not listening to anyone. And so I called him over and I started asking questions through Google Translate and telling him, hey, I'm so happy you're here today. I'm so glad I got to meet you. How old are you? What are your dreams? Who is your inspiration? And I just told him that, like, no matter what he's experienced in the past, the future is still his choice. Like, he gets to make decisions that do define his future. And even if he felt like his choices growing up were out of his control, he does have power to change or to have a different future. And I just told him that I saw greatness in him and that I thought he had a bright future ahead of him. And I truly mean that. When I was sharing these things, he was just staring at me like, me? Like, me. You're not talking about like one of the other kids who's like sitting quietly, nice, like prim and proper. And his just demeanor changed as I was talking with him. And eventually he went over to Lenny. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because I really care about this kid that I only met for a day. So he goes over to Lenny and he starts asking Lenny questions about how to like translate his questions in English so that he could ask me back. And so that was really sweet, and that he was trying to talk with me in my language. And then at the end of the day, as the kids were getting on the bus, or back in the van that Lenny brought them from Carbonar to Vlore in, all the kids are getting on, saying goodbye, just waving at us. And Ron looks back at me and runs and gives me a hug. And he just like was just holding on so tight. And then he just looked up at me and then he walked back to the van, and I was in tears because this kid was uncontrollable at the beginning of our time with them. And I just felt the Lord tell me to like spend time with him and just remind him that he has worth, he has greatness in him, and that I might be the only person in his life that gets to tell him that. Before we left our Airbnb in Albania, I left a note for him, for Lenny to give him, that said, my favorite quotation on it by Fitzgerald, it says, "I hope you live a life you're proud of, and if you find that you're not, I hope you have the courage to start all over again." And then on the other side it said, "I believe in the greatness in you." And it was translated into Albanian. So I hope that that note will get to him so that he can keep it and just look at it anytime that he forgets, and that he really will believe it truly for himself. During our time in the village, we also got the chance to connect with the teacher there and ask him what like supplies that they needed. And with our budget that we were given for food, lodging, transportation for the month, we were able to donate the supplies that they needed. And so that was also like really awesome. I'm glad that we were just in the right place at the right time to support their education in that way. When we weren't at the village, we picked up trash around Vlore, we bought fresh flowers and wrote encouraging notes on them in Albanian. And we also visited with people who were sitting around the mosque in like the center of the city. We ate out a couple times in Vlore, one place being Proper Pizza, which we ended up getting a lot larger pizzas than we had expected, but they were amazing. We also got dessert at Big Scoop that had like all these different kinds of desserts, and wow, they're so good. And we also would occasionally get coffee at Sophie Cafe, which is in the Old Town part of Vlore, and we befriended the servers there, who were just super fun, and yeah, I was glad that we got to encourage them too. Overall, I was so blessed by my time in Albania, seeing the ginormous, majestic mountains out our car windows, seeing all of the olive fields and the vineyards and the fruit trees. To me, I thought the village we went to, Carbonar, looked like a Garden of Eden. There's just such an abundance of life, of nature in Albania. Although Albania has had such a tough history with communism, I still see how God has surrounded them with beauty and hope through their scenic views and also through their hospitality. Genuinely, if you visit Albania, you will be so wowed and blessed by them. Any kind of hospitality you can imagine, they will outdo it. They are incredible people who are gracious, friendly, and cheerful, and I highly recommend Albania to you to visit. Regarding the organization that I'm volunteering with for 11 months, This month was called ATL month, which is an acronym for Ask the Lord month. So this month when we came to Albania, we had no hosts. My team of 5, we just prayed together. We asked the Lord what city we should go to. And he gave us some clues telling us that when we got there, someone would be there to help us, which was Lenny. He guided us to this village. He spent time with us, even though he was a full-time lawyer, and he'd get coffee with us. But yeah, Lenny was who God had provided for us to meet there, who would take care of us, and who already had a mission in his heart to reach out to this village and to invest in these children. And so we just got to join him in that. Even though he does not have the same religion that we have, he's Bektashi Muslim, but still, like, we're able to do something so special this month together. Even though we didn't have a set host and we were just on our own for finding a place to live and all of that, like, God provided so well for us through the people we met. The people of Albania took such good care of us, and I'm so thankful to them. I will not forget their hospitality. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it a lot. I am so extremely grateful that I get to tell stories like this that are true, they're real, I lived them. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And next month is Kosovo, so I'll see you again then. Bye.